The reason I chose the title is because anyone who's a sailor knows the term red sky at night, sailor's delight, red sky in the morning, sailor take warning. And so I chose the title because I thought it best represented a phenomenon that I had seen through living in Hawaii, knowing Maori people, having been to Tahiti, having spent time on the coast of Peru. I saw this recurring or odd thing, which was that red hair seemed to show up in deep antiquity. So this is the area of influence that I'm going to discuss. It's the Polynesian area called the Triangle and the coast of Peru over here. Now, Thor Heyerdahl, who of course was the man behind the Kon-Tiki, he did a fair bit of research from reading oral traditions from South America, where it spoke, or they spoke, of this ancient people who were red-haired, light-skinned, and they were ancient travelers from Peru into Polynesia. He was vehemently attacked by academia for it, and by the Polynesians themselves, because both said, no, the Polynesians came from Southeast Asia, and they were the only people to inhabit what is called Polynesia. Now, he proved that it was possible with a very simple raft with a sail in 111 days to go from Callao, Peru to Polynesia without steering it. They didn't bother trying to steer it. They just wanted to see what the winds and currents would do, and it took them to Polynesia, and he became world famous after that. The island that really took his interest after that, and which he thought he would have been able to have sailed to, is Rapa Nui, also called Easter Island, which is the southern part of Polynesia. And because of the winds and currents that exist in the Pacific, they're never static, they're dynamic. So over the years, different currents can change position, and you can, without too much difficulty, sail from Peru today to Rapa Nui. Oops. Sorry, I'm having trouble with this machine. Oh. Sorry, the computer's frozen.
No, it has crashed.
Uh-oh.
It might have overheated. Okay. Yeah.
I want to restart?
The mouse isn't working either.
Wow.
Okay, just have to...
So any questions about the Inca while we're waiting?
Do you want to...
No, please, somebody, Hugh? Because I know nothing about how these work when they don't work. And that's the great thing, you just turn them off and turn them on. So if anyone has any questions, no, somebody get a microphone for the audience, because I don't know what to do. Okay. Okay, sorry. I'm the voice. Okay.
So we've got an early question and answer session, it seems. Anyone?
Yeah, we'll do it.
I can't actually see anyone. Oh, I've got one. I've got trouble.
On the larger rocks, the early construction phase, there are several small nubs or knobs on the rock. Would you care to comment on them? Do you think they're during part of the construction, or were they left on for decoration or anything? Do you have any thoughts on those?
That is one of the best questions in existence, because at a number of places, especially Ollantaytambo, you have these odd-looking knobs that stick out. And the same thing in Egypt. And the conventional story is that the Inca did that in order to be able to help raise the stones up. So by having the knobs there, you could loop a rope there, and then that would help to hoist it up. Now, the question I had was, well, then why didn't they cut them off afterwards? Because if the precision joinery is so perfect, why would they leave something aesthetically ugly like that? No answer. The other thing is that some of the largest blocks don't have these knobs. It's more likely that they represent some kind of solar markers, because they don't tend to be on a northern side. They tend to be on the east, south, and west. So it's as if as the sun is moving, these knobs on different days cast different shadows, relating possibly one to another. Or they could represent star systems or something, or constellations or stars. But it's one of the, I don't mean to demean conventional archaeology, but when they go out of their box and try to answer questions like kind of dumb ways like that, well, it's a way to lift the stones. It's like, that's a hell of a lot of work just to get that knob in the first place means you have to remove all of the stone around it. They would have thought of something more intelligent as a lifting aid than that. The thing is that not only are there the knobs, but there are also in some places concave areas, like at Sacsayhuaman. And then you say, well, if the knobs were for lifting them, then what are these depressions for? And they say, well, you take a tree trunk, and when you're trying to lift the stone up, that's a place where the tree can be, the end of the piece of wood can go. So again, you can push these 40-ton stones into position. Another thing, honestly, it's not that it offends me. It's just that's why I bring engineers in and ask engineers, how would you have achieved this? Because an engineer is an engineer. An archaeologist is not an engineer. An archaeologist is also not an expert on spiritual things. And when archaeologists get into things about, well, the Inca believed this, it's like, based on what? Well, because we think the cat represents a so-and-so. It's like, have you asked the actual people? And finally, before I start this again, that's what really offends me is when so-called scholars, or scholars, if you want, whatever, scholars, when they don't ask the descendants of a people their story, that's racism. You want to know how the Inca lived? Ask the Inca, or the descendants of them, or the Rapa Nui, or anybody on Earth. That's where you get the story, not from, well, we're digging and we think this pot represents something. It's like, come on. That's childish at this point. It's 21st century. Anyway, now that I've had my rant.
Okay, we're going to do the questions at the end now.
Okay,
the talk's back online. Okay.
So on Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, you find these amazingly huge heads. And later on, or soon, very soon, we'll get into the fact that they're not just heads, there's more to them. But for some reason, amongst the Polynesian people, it was supposedly the people of Rapa Nui who were the only major megalithic sculptors, and some of these are 30 feet tall. Now again, the conventional story of the populating of the Americas is that everybody, and that means absolutely everybody, crossed the Bering Land Bridge during the Ice Age from Siberia and traveled all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. Again, like all the way down to Tierra del Fuego, which is down here, by walking, because these people were too stupid to know how to sail. That is what they're inferring. In places, and this is my place of greatest interest, is Paracas. You have skull after skull that have red hair. Native Americans have black hair, without exception, as far as I know. But for some reason, on the coast of Peru, and also in Polynesia, you find not only stories of ancient people with red hair, you have people walking around that still have red hair, not descendants from people who mixed with Irish and Scottish people, but some ancient race. The conventional story of the populating of Polynesia is that they came from Southeast Asia, and then down through Tonga and Samoa, about 150 AD, or the numbers change all the time, and they get to the Tahiti area, they go to the Marquesas, and then they branch out north to Hawaii.